once you've added your bass line to your chords, you can work out how you want your bass to change, how you want it to evolve, and you might want to make your bass line even more interesting. And I'm just going to copy this whole bass line here to my chorus section that I mentioned, which starts in bar 15. I'm just going to make sure it starts there, because actually I want to make my bass line flow a little bit more in this section. So let's have a little look at my bass line. So it's this red bit highlighted down here. And what I want to do is I want to see if I can add some notes in between some of the bass notes here. And I'm just going to experiment a little bit here by adding in a D, an E. I'm just going to make this D slightly smaller. Move my E here. Like that. Let's have a little listen to what that sounds like with my bass. Hopefully you heard that little rising pattern there. And I'm going to do the same thing, I think, over here. So I've got my A here, and I'm going to put a G in between. This is a bit of a walking bass line. Let's have a little listen to what that sounds like. And then I'm also going to put in some notes in here. Put an E, and then a D, going down to my C. So I'm just adding in some passing notes, just to make my bass line a bit more interesting, especially because it's the chorus. And so do experiment with changing your bass line when you get to the chorus, just to make it a little bit more interesting. And of course, you can just practice and you can experiment and you can play in whatever you want. It's really entirely up to you what you do with this. And what's quite nice is just to come up with the bass line, maybe move it over to the right, go back to the beginning and just get your bass, get your instrument open, press play, and then just experiment with things. And you never know, you might come up with a really good idea. And so even though I didn't press record then, always press record, because if you do come up with something great, you've then got it. And if it's no good, you can just press delete. And also, just to mention, and I will press record now just to show this, but you might even want to add in some black notes as passing notes. Let's just record something now on the bass. And hopefully you noticed there that I added in a slightly different note, and I actually, I will be able to show you that if I zoom in, because I added in something a little bit more interesting on my bass line there. I'm just going to go to my pencil tool, because I added in a G sharp. It's showing up as an A flat here, but I added in a G sharp in between my G and my A minor, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So do experiment with bass lines, see what you come up with. Knowing what your chord progression is really important, because your bass is likely to play whatever note the chord is. If it's a C major chord, you're likely to play a C in the bass. If it's an A minor chord, you're likely to play an A in the bass. Have fun creating bass lines. You can make mistakes. You've seen me make mistakes in this video. That's fine, because within Soundtrap, just like all music software, we can delete, we can copy, we can paste, and we can change things around really easily. Good luck creating your first bass line.